Chapter 5, Freedom of Expression, Part 1 of 4, Defamation and Obscenity. The learning outcomes include: describe the rights that the First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees to U.S. citizens, illustrate which types of protection are and are not protected under the law, evaluate how the courts have interpreted obscenity. It's not that easy. Finally, relate the difficulties of bringing forward defamation allegations in the complex, messy, difficult to determine who wrote something online environment. Many of us refer to our First Amendment freedom of expression, freedom of speech rights. What the Constitution says, or the Bill of Rights, is that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, that's where we infer freedom of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, that's where we say freedom of speech, free press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to ask the government to do something for it. You may assemble and protest if you feel strongly enough to do so. There are limits on that, though. You may be limited by local laws or fire safety or other hazards. The First Amendment does protect Americans' rights to freedom of religion and freedom of expression within certain guidelines. So you do have freedom of speech. That includes nonverbal, how you may look at someone or the gestures you may make, visual, symbolic forms of expression, a sign you hold up. It does give you, in most cases, the right to speak anonymously as well. However, the First Amendment does not protect if you're committing perjury, so you're lying under oath, you're committing fraud, you're not allowed to say what you want, do what you want in terms of cheating someone out of their money. It also does not affect defamation, as long as there is some harm done to someone and you say something about them online or in person. It does not affect obscene speech. Notice that obscene is underlined. Do you know what obscene means? I do. We probably all have different ideas of what is obscene, none of us any more right than others. The First Amendment also does not protect if you are trying to incite others to panic or incite them to commit a crime. It does not protect fighting words. If you say, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to harm you in some way, or sedition, you rise up against the state or the nation. It also does not protect advertisers, does not give them the right to advertise something with qualities it does not possess. The courts have established a three-pronged test for obscene expression, and this goes back to 1973. The first prong says, does the average person, a reasonable person as it would be, who applies contemporary community standards, would that person find that the work appeals to the prurient interest? Second prong is whether the work depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct specifically defined by applicable state law. So obscenity could vary by state, from state to state. And third, whether the work taken as a whole has no serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Again, who determines that? A reasonable person. Here's the quote we've probably heard before. I shall not today attempt further to define the kinds of material I understand to be embraced within that shorthand description. Here he is referring to hardcore pornography. and perhaps I could never succeed in intelligibly doing so, but I know it when I see it. And the motion picture involved in this case is not that. We have probably heard that I know it when I see it. I can't define obscenity for you, but I know it when I see it. These three prongs do help you determine if something is obscene. You've probably heard of defamation, and you can defame someone online or in person or in traditional print. Slander is when you say something that's untrue, that harms them. Libel is when you write something online or in a written publication. It has to be false. It has to cause some harm to another person. So just because you say something is untrue, say you said I weighed 500 pounds and I happen not to weigh 500 pounds, unless that hurt me in some quantifiable way, then I have no case. If publishers make false statements about people in the public, they're not liable for damages unless they made the statements with reckless disregard for the truth. Sometimes online it's very difficult to determine who made the statements. They may be anonymous or used other user IDs or accounts. So sometimes you can't determine who they are, even if you know where it was posted, you know the user ID. It may not be something that can be determined easily. When you get online, you can defame someone online just as you can in print or verbally. Blogs, social commentary sites, political sites that give factually incorrect information can be sued. Think about the 2016 election when there was fake news on all sides. It's very difficult to determine who's publishing, and once you get one down, another comes up. It may take too much time and effort for you to find out who it is and sue that person if they're publishing factually incorrect information. Wikipedia information that is inaccurate may be caused, if it caused you to act because of the information given, then it might be a place where you can see people defamed or organizations defamed, or even materials or processes defamed. You say incorrect information about the process used by Google, for instance. Wikipedia does have editors, and they do go in and periodically collect, organize, and ensure that the information is factual, but they all have biases as well. We all do. Other places, if you just want to look around and find defamation, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, any of the Snapchat, Instagram, any of the social media sites, as well as too numerous to even list or describe other sites that carry factually incorrect information. You need to carefully look at what information is there and evaluate it based on more than one source, more than one reputable source. You should look at what the other side is saying if you have one perspective on something. For instance, politics. If you happen to be a Democrat, you need to also read Republican-leaning publications, not just Democratic-leaning, and vice versa. To summarize, First Amendment protects the right to freedom of religion and expression, but it does not protect all forms of speech. For instance, obscene speech, defamation, hate speech are not covered under the right to freedom of speech or freedom of expression. Federal laws do prohibit certain forms of expression, for instance, child pornography, defamation that produces harm, something that you lie about, you know you lied about it or should have known it, produces harms, hate speech, However, that may be defined by governmental agencies or groups. And very limited, but a little bit of spam that violates specific guidelines given. And maybe even some forms of anonymous communication, some forms of encryption. With the complex, messy, non-linear online environment, it may be difficult to determine who posted a story about you, a defamatory story about you. And then it may be even more difficult to demonstrate that they knew the story was false. If they put it out as a matter of opinion, they may be able to get away with it. If it's demonstrated that a reasonable person in their situation would have sought clarification, you may be able to sue. In general, the right to freedom of expression is almost inviolate. That is, it's the biggest right that our courts have interpreted. We have the right to speak out, to express our thoughts, unless they fall into a few categories. Even national security at times does not trump freedom of expression.